The Aldis podcast is brought to you by Aldis International, supplying your expert AI and digital transformation staffing needs across the US and Europe. Today, you are listening to our AI in Action series, where leading minds in AI from across the world share their story, success, and advice. AI in Action cuts through the hype and explores the true impact of artificial intelligence in our world today.
You're listening to AI in Action. I'm your host, JP Valentine. Our guest today is Nils Reimers. Nils is the Director of Machine Learning at Cohere AI. Nils, welcome to the show.
Yeah, great to be here.
So Nils, let's start with yourself, please. Could you give us a bit of an overview of your journey in technology, from where you got started, some of the roles you've held along the way, and take us up to today as the Director of Machine Learning at Cohere?
Yeah, originally I came from development. So I've been working as web developer for 15 years or so. Have founded a lot of software as a service companies. But at some point, became quite boring web development for me. So I said, okay, first pitched into cybersecurity, cryptography. Did a lot of work in terms of cryptography, but then this was a bit too abstract. And in 2014, I said, okay, artificial intelligence sounds really interesting. At that time, it was like completely different landscape than today. So in 2014, I started my PhD and my professor asked me at that time, hey, can you have a look into neural networks? People on computer vision, they talk about neural networks again. It's a really hype topic right now in computer vision. And people thought neural networks were dead technology. So no one in the early 2000s were really interested in neural networks. Only like a really small group of researchers still carried on doing research on neural networks. And yeah, luckily for me, the timing worked out perfect. Now people said artificial intelligence equivalent with machine learning and said machine learning equivalent with deep learning, neural networks. And so I spent a lot of time looking into the technology, understanding neural networks, deep learning, how can it be applied by NLP, and how can it be used to access the information we have stored in a lot of textual data. During my postdoc, I started to work on search. At that time, there has been a lot of improvement, innovations going on, also still in a really early stage. Search for a really long time was equivalent with keyword search. You type in the keywords, the text, the exact text you want to search for, and then it shows you, highlights the positions in documents about this text. But we all know keyword search doesn't work nice. So if I search in a long PDF document or a long Word document, I seldom find the right position because I can't remember the exact keyword, the exact phrase I'm looking for. And so it's always really tedious. So in 2018, during my postdoc, I started to work on a new technology for search, which is now known for semantic search. At that time, it was also still completely niche topic. Only a really handful of people have been working on this. And I wanted to learn more, like how does semantic search work? Can you train these models that map text to a vector space so that you can find good search results in it? And at that time, there was basically no infrastructure. So no code software frameworks to run it, limited vector databases to host it. So I learned how to learn these models that can transfer text to a vector space where you can then efficiently search in it, and open source this as the sentence transformer library, which is a hugely popular open source library to do semantic search with more than probably 30 million installations, and brought a lot of movement into the field. So when I started in 2018, it was really a niche topic. Only a handful of people have been working on this. And now you see a lot of interest in the research community, but also in the industry on semantic search, because the search results are so much better. And we have so many jobs and tasks where search is really key element for our job to find the relevant information at the right time. After my postdoc, I joined Hugging Face as a team lead to start the neural search team. There, I've been working with my research group heavily on how to make it more accessible, the search products. Before that, you need a lot of training data, and getting training data is like really challenging. So either you pay a lot of money to annotate, to pay humans to annotate data, or you have a big successful search product like Google where you can use user interaction data. But if you really start out in the field, if you're a startup, if you're an individual developer, you probably don't have $100,000 to pay for annotation. You don't have a big successful product where you can use user interaction data. So I spent a lot of time with my research group to find ways how to decrease the need for labeled data, where we found like really cool, interesting approaches. And now these methods work really well out of domain. So you get like tremendously better search result with semantic search compared to keyword search, and which completely revolutionized the field, how you do search. And a lot of interest is now picking up in industry. A lot of companies, vector databases working on this, modeling companies working on this, end-to-end solutions working on this. So it's really interesting to see this movement in the field. Recently, in July this year, I joined Cohere as director of machine learning to more work on search and bring products for search for the market.
Thank you for the background. I really appreciate you walking us through that journey. Tell us all about Cohere, who you are as a business, what you do, what's the mission of the organization.
Yes, so the mission of Cohere is NLP for everyone. So still a lot of NLP technology is only in the hands of few experts. So for example, if you want to use semantic search, you still have to have a lot of knowledge. You have to know, first you have to know Python. You have to know about transformer networks. You have to know what are like these word pieces in transformer networks. You have to know about vector spaces, about approximate nearest neighbor methods in vector spaces, about vector data and so on. So you need a lot of machine learning expertise or something which should be easy. So you say, I have this collection of documents and I want to have a really good search function on this. So why do I have to do all these steps, which requires a lot of expertise? And Cohere is here to change this. So Cohere says, okay, there's a lot of technology in the NLP field, which we want to make accessible for everyone. So maybe even people who have like limited background in software development and have limited background in machine learning should be able to harvest the power of these language models. And there we have two big models. The first one is text generation, where you give the model some instructions. So for example, write an article about the best family restaurants in New York City, or take this text and make it more formal, or take the text and extract the 5 key messages from this article. So this is the one unit. The other unit is text understanding, where I'm in charge of. So text understanding means two things. First, text classification. Given a text, you want to assign it to certain categories which are of interest for you. And the other big part is search. So you have a large collection of documents. How can you find the relevant information in this collection of documents?
Thank you, Nils. So describe then your role as the director of machine learning. What are your primary responsibilities? What's the team look like that you oversee? And what's it like day to day?
Day to day is quite diverse. So Cohere is still a startup before product market fit. So what I'm supervising is mostly the long-term vision strategy for text understanding. What are the products we want to build, which technology, and which pain points is it solving in the market? And this is basically where I spend like most of the time. First, understanding the market, understanding customers. So being in discussion with like some large tech companies to say, okay, we have certain pain points in search, for example, because our document collection is so big, or we need customized solutions, or we have research a really diverse set of data where the language is different in legal, in fashion industry, in patent text and clinical notes. So first pillar of my work is really understand what are the pain points and what is the product we can develop. And then second one is like with my engineering team to develop this technology. So have an understanding, okay, what are the biggest pain points? How can we solve this for the customers, for the users, to make it extremely trivial to provide good search at scale for them. And the last main duty is team management, like a team of great engineers, different skill sets, working on different parts of this, from machine learning to platform to user engagement, customer engagement. So managing them on a day-to-day basis to see, okay, what's the technology? Where do we still need to improve with the technology? And how does it fit it into individual pieces, into the bigger picture we want to ship to customers?
You are listening to the Aldis podcast. When you're looking to scale your team, or if you are interested in showcasing your company in a future episode, reach out today. Or if you're in the market for a new role, visit our website to view open positions, www.aldis.com.
Could you give us some examples of the impact that your team is having for customers? Maybe some of the reasons why customers are coming to you and what you're able to do for them. Just some insight into the impact that this is having would be great.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so with my open source work, sentence transformers, I made it quite simple, straightforward to do semantic search, but only for, I would say, the rather simpler use cases. So it works well if you work on a sentence or maybe paragraph level. But in a lot of cases, search is a lot more complex. So there are like vectors which make it complex. For example, you have like a huge collection of documents. For example, you have 100 billions of documents you want to search. Maybe you have a language and a domain which is extremely specialized. For example, you work in biomedical domain and want to find connections between proteins and treatment of diabetes, where current models lack the domain-specific knowledge. So there are the questions, how can you adapt these models to these specific domains? And also in general, in terms of like scalables, in the best case, you want to have personalized search experience. You want to have like search experience which works well for different domains so that the models really understand these individual domains. And so there we're developing technology which makes it easy for others to deploy it scale. So that we enable other companies to build amazing search products and say, okay, we focus on different domains, let's say on fashion and online gaming and on legal text. So how can we support these companies to build a great product out of this? And how can we really make it scalable for them?
I want to spend some time, Nils, talking about what the roadmap ahead looks like. I know you joined in the summer, but you've already identified some really interesting projects that you and your team are working on, and the organization is growing as a whole. When you look at the next 12 to 24 months, what growth are you expecting from a product demand standpoint, from your overall team headcount, and what are you excited about for the next 12 months at Cohere?
So currently at Cohere, we're focusing on 3 key technologies. The first is, how can we support you in writing text? So for example, you write a blog article or some draft of an email, draft of an agenda. So how can you use large language models to create this text and help you in writing this to, for example, make it more crisp, extract data from this, bullet points from this. Second key focus area is summarization. So given a text or a collection of text, how can you summarize it? How can you get the gist out of it? Especially in summarization, the challenge is that the preferences are different. So some people like a 1-sentence summary. Other people like bullet points, maybe a list of key action items from a call, for example. So here's a challenge. How can we make it so easy and intuitive that you can say, hey, this is the summary I want, for example, from this call, from this call transcript, I would like to have a 5-sentence summary highlighting the key topics discussed in this conversation. And the final focus area is search, which I'm in charge of. In search, we want to make it make semantic search more accessible. So right now, semantic search only works on rather short text, like 100 words in English. This this does not really make me happy that it only works for English and only if the text is like really short, like 100 words, like a paragraph. So we're working on it to make it like more accessible. So first project is to make it accessible in 100 languages so that you can easily search across languages, within languages. So you can formulate a search query in French, for example, and maybe find the relevant document in English, which is extremely interesting for companies working in like multiple languages. So Cohere is a Canadian company in Toronto, really close to Toronto is Montreal, which is like French speaking part of Canada, but also a lot of people speak English. And there you have a lot of companies where some people communicate in French, some people communicate in English. People often speak like both languages. It's like really hard to find like the one or the other information. So if you search in French, with keyword search, you will not find like any English document. So you always need to search in English and French, which is not the best user experience. So we're working on it to make semantic search more accessible, first for more languages, then for larger document collections, 100 billions of documents, and also for more complex data. So if you think about e-commerce, not only a text or a title you have, but you have also images, you have audio, you have description, you have properties, you have reviews, a lot of reviews, for example, for popular products, you have question and answers. And sometimes your search queries need to take this into account. So if you look into, I want really comfortable blue jeans for tall men, you probably have to match different things. First, you need to match the color, which is maybe some property of the product. Then should be comfortable. So you have to check the user reviews to say, okay, where users describe it as extremely comfortable jeans. And then also for tall men, so you need to match in terms of the size, or you have to check the reviews where people say, okay, it's a jeans that works extremely well for tall men and sits super nicely. And so it's extremely challenging right now to apply semantic search for these use cases. And at Cohere, we're developing technology to solve this.
Final question from me, Nils. As the leader of that organization, when you're speaking to candidates about the work, the mission, the environment at Cohere, what is it that you tell candidates that gets them excited and interested to join Cohere over some of the other great companies hiring?
That's a good question. Certainly, I do this customized to the person, but in general, I say there's like only a few handful of companies who work on the modeling side, especially on like large scale, like billions of parameters models. So there's like only really few places that have the know-how how to train these models. And Cohere's one really unique place where you can take this technology, this great technology we got from scale, and apply it to real products, real use cases, and really be able to shape the future, how these products are used and how do you solve pain points from individual developers to SMEs to large corporations. So how can you take this technology and transform how people will do NLP in the future?
Nils, thank you so much for coming on today and talking to us. It was really great to learn about your own background, your career journey, what's brought you to Cohere, and the work that you and your team is doing. It really does sound like a very interesting place indeed. And obviously a lot of growth in store given the product development. So we wish you, the team, and everyone at Cohere the best of luck in the months and years to come. And we look forward to having you back on the show.
Great. Thanks so much for having me here.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the All This podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and any Android podcast of choice. You can also head over to our website, www.allthis.com, to listen to more podcasts, view our open roles, and stay up to date with industry news. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for more great episodes coming very soon.